I want to ask you a simple question, and honestly answer this before you continue the video. What makes a story interesting? Maybe you said plot, character development, or something more specific about relatability or complexity. But I would argue what makes stories interesting is almost always contrast, or at least, it is the hook we bite, so to speak, that serves as a foundational kind of tension for exploration in a story. Spider-Man is often insecure, broke, and overwhelming, yet he still shows up for people and shows a courageous side in the face of conflict. Uncle Iroh from the Atlas series is a powerful general who has mastered the flame, yet is also one of the most wise and compassionate or understanding characters on the show. Batman, who is a vigilante who is kind of dark and brooding, yet sticks by a no-kill rule, which is seemingly contradictory to his normal demeanor. Why am I saying this? Because the modern-day definition of good lacks this kind of contrast. It's much more one-dimensional or lacking in this kind of passion or life force. The modern-day nice or good guy has been idolized to be an unproblematic, agreeable, passive, almost senseless person who avoids conflict and sees friction or contention as inherently bad and cannot seem to get over it. When you resort to looking at life through this passive lens, you cut out the possibility for seemingly opposite things to exist. And although there is certainly an extreme to things like aggression, hatred, unpoliteness, etc., I think we, especially young people out there, do not have to worry too much about this. I want to start this off by talking about a tale. A famous tale maybe you've heard about two wolves that goes as follows summarized. An elder is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he says. It is a terrible fight between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, and kindness. This same fight is going on inside you. The grandson thinks about it and asks, "Which wolf will win?" The elder replies, "The one you feed." Okay, you might be thinking, that has little to do with the point I'm trying to make, and that's because you're right. I believe there should be an additional point to this story, because a man does not exist with simple conceptual dualities like kindness and anger. Rather, everyone has to learn how to integrate and not discard these things into their life, or in other words, feed both the wolves. You see, if I only feed the white wolf, the black wolf will hide in the dark and wait for me to become weak and distracted, growing resentful and hungry and bitter. Then, when life gets difficult and shit hits the fan, so to speak, he'll leap out and attack the white wolf, creating a war within me that destroys everything, or creating catastrophe in your life. But if you feed them both, they can coexist. The black wolf has critical qualities that somebody needs, although seemingly, I guess, less attractive on the surface because of the anger or the less polite qualities. He possesses fiercely protective instincts, relentless determination, courage, and a sharp awareness of danger. He has the teeth and strength, so to speak, to face the predators of the forest, and the qualities will help you face the troubles of life. And of course, the white wolf has compassion, wisdom, and gentle understanding, or the ability to unite people, qualities which the black wolf lacks. These two come together in a sort of perfect harmony. Maybe you've seen the yin-yang symbol, a little bit of white light in the dark and a little bit of dark in the light. But it seems to me that this concept of integrating different parts of yourself is important to life and to live honestly and fully. Because to hide or mask certain parts of yourself that make you capable of risk-taking or danger, or avoid these things under the guise of virtue or niceness, like the sort of good guy or nice guy trend persona thing you see going on nowadays, is like going through life in an extremely small bubble. It's like going through life without allowing yourself to be tested, actively avoiding things that make you uncomfortable, and minimizing yourself to a point of non-existence. See, the uglier truth is that, just like the fictional heroes I mentioned, and throughout the history of storytelling, for life to exist, for you to exist and live life fully, you must incorporate some things you find unacceptable. If you're anything like me, although on the surface there's nothing I agree on with many so-called villains or antagonists in many stories, there's still a drive for adventure and a purpose, or a sense of life that to a passive man is kind of shamefully admirable, regardless of their moral standing. There is an attraction to them, a force, or at least a sliver of life, and that is at least something in comparison to nothing. And from what I observe today, there's a big struggle to feel alive amongst younger people in general already. There's danger to this dynamic, of course, in the sense that because you may feel hopeless or lifeless, you're just drawn to anything that makes you feel something, which could be, and probably is, the start of many coping problems or addictions, but that will have to wait for another video. This may be controversial or feel wrong, but I truly believe this passive nice guy act is worse for the individual than embracing some antagonistic qualities. Almost like a vehicle that moves really slowly and breaks down every mile, it's still better than the one that does not move at all and rots in the garage. Essentially, a good man does not sacrifice himself or delete himself entirely under the guise of niceness or virtue. Rather, good men harbor opposites within themselves, and because of this tension, live life more honestly and purposefully and have more space to explore, so to speak. Another thing to note is that a lot of the time when someone goes through life on autopilot, feeling hopeless and senseless, it's not because they lack awareness, but because they avoid internal tension. At least for me, I've definitely gone through certain periods of my life just constantly avoiding tension or the life that I'm supposed to live. We tend to reject or suppress anything that feels emotionally unacceptable, like anger, selfishness, aggression, or even simple disagreement. Not necessarily because those traits are bad, but because acknowledging them would force self-reflection and responsibility, or kind of kick your life into action, right? Spark something. If you recognize that those pulses exist in you, even in small amounts, you also have to deal with harder questions, how to regulate them, when to express them, and what they reveal about your values and behavior. So instead, of course, it can feel easier to treat those traits as something that shouldn't exist at all. You criticize them quickly, especially when you see them in others, because it helps keep the internal picture of yourself simple, stable, and unchallenged. But the trade-off is that you also reduce your ability to understand and integrate those parts of yourself, and that's where life starts to feel flat, reactive, or disconnected, a kind of cognitive dissonance and disattachment from your life, or maybe even a brain fog that many people I've seen experience these days, because anything that creates tension is treated as something to avoid rather than something to be understood. So contrast is not just what makes stories interesting, it's what makes character and life possible. Without opposing forces, there's nothing to overcome, nothing to reconcile, nothing to choose between. So remember this: a person who has never been tested cannot know whether he is courageous. A person who has never faced conflict cannot know whether he's peaceful. And the modern obsession with being harmless often strips away these tensions. It encourages people to minimize themselves, to smooth out every rough edge, and to become so agreeable that they never risk disapproval. But if you're hopeless out there, and you're not feeling full of life, remember that a life spent avoiding tension, or as this good guy, is also a life spent avoiding growth. So what path will you take? And if you've made it this far in the video, thank you again for watching. Please leave any suggestions in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and I wish you all the best.